Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Roche Mentorship Podcast. It's so great to be here. I'm your host. My name is Apinke Afalabi, and today we have the privilege of speaking with Alexander Tang. He's an amazing 3D environment artist at Artship Interactive. Alexander holds a Bachelor of Arts in Game Art from Escape Studios in London, and he has worked as a 3D generalist on British library exhibitions and later went on to specialize as an environment artist at Artship Interactive. His passion lies in historical artifacts and weaponry, drawing inspirations from real life relics and museum pieces to inform his work. Notably, in 2020, Alexander was recognized as one of UK's top emerging talents in the gaming industry by the IG50 Awards. This is an opportunity to learn from Alex on how he first became a generalist and now a specialist. So, welcome, Alex. It's very nice to
Thank you for
be
having me.
speaking to you. How are you doing today? I hope you're good.
Yeah, not too bad. As per usual in the UK, it's a bit chilly, but can't complain.
All right, Alex. So one of the first things I was very intrigued about to ask you would be about your journey, right?
Hmm.
What inspired you to pursue a career in 3D environment? Did you fall into it, or did you pick this as like a skill you would do in life?
So my sort of interest kind of started when I was like 4, 5, 6,
Oh, wow.
playing just like computer games, as I'm sure many of us do. So my sort of like first games were RuneScape. It was like a really old classic MMORPG, and I loved like the sort of fantasy world behind it. You can go around like doing quests, killing dragons, goblins, and that sort of stuff. And I really loved the like the weapons and the armor in it. Similar with Adventure Quest worlds, they were just like really cool like fantasy designs. And when I went to school, all I'd like do like sometimes when I finish my work, I just in the corner just do like some scribbles of like swords, tanks. Like all this sort of stuff, and my sort of like passion for games kind of started from there.
Okay. Okay. So how did you now take how do you what was the process from what you had as your passion into actualizing it into going into school? How did you know what to study? How did you get to it, escape studios?
Um, so kind of started with kind of like GCSE art, so it's just like getting into the arts like there, and then I kind of really started like learning more about game art when I went to sixth form. Luckily, my sixth form they provided us with industry mentors, and one of my mentors at the time was Ollie, who worked at King. And he was developing he's a level designer at King, working on Candy Crush at the time. And he was
Oh,
like
wow.
a big like a role model to look up to, because he was like, this was a person who it was in the games industry. He was like living my dream. So he kind of inspired me to kind of like start looking into tinkering with 3D. So I started learning Maya. I wasn't great in it, but it was like that sort of fun experimentation where I was like, wow, this is cool. I've made this sword that, looking back now, it was like a complete mess filled with engons. Like, it just was. It was just like me having a lot of fun and playing around.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me interested in, like, if I was having so much fun just, making primitive cubes and everything, like how cool would this be as a career? Which got me looking at my university choices. So I went to one of Escape Studios taster days. There was like a VFX one where we were like looking at how you can like composite this. I think it was like a car in like 3D and other sorts of stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. So that kind of led me on to eventually applying to Escape Studios and studying there for my degree.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, when what year did you go to school?
As in sixth form or uni?
No, from Escape Studios. How long have you been working since you finished from Escape Studios?
Oh, right. So I've been working almost 2.5 years now.
Two and a
So
half.
yeah, it started with the first role with the British Library, where we worked to create an exhibit for one of their sorry, uh, an interactive map for one of their exhibits, Alexander the Great, the making of a myth.
Yeah, we need
So
to talk about that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
go on.
but yeah, it was just like a cool opportunity that kind of kick-started my career, because it was like, this is the first sort of like professional piece which I could show, and then that kind of went on to Free Radical, and then eventually now I'm at Airship.
Okay, I just want to ask you one question. How have you evolved in the past 2.5 years? How has your how has your design, your interest, your the trajectory of your career? Did you think when you started like schooling for it and where you are now, have you evolved? Are you still where you were 2.5 years ago?
Um, so I think in terms of my sort of like inspirations and like why I like doing this, I think that's kind of stayed the same. But
Okay.
in terms of like skills, you definitely learn a lot on the job. So, for example, when I first joined Airship, the first project I was on, I was on that project. I think it was like 3 months, 4 months. At the beginning
Okay.
of it, it was kind of like, because it was like getting used to the project brief and everything. Uh, it, it felt like, taking a few baby steps, but like over the next few weeks was like kind of gaining confidence, getting like technique as well, like uh, being able to uh, being able to like practice on the job. Like I could feel the skills just like go up when you start like working professionally. But yeah, like going from uni to now, there's definitely a big difference I can see. I mean, it's not just like work wise as well. It's also, like I mentioned before, it's like confidence as well. It's like soft skills as well. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't see myself doing something like this, like speaking to people publicly. That's also like another thing that's changed.
That's nice. That's nice. It's good to hear about your growth. I would ask you a couple of questions about your work, right?
Yep.
Uh, I sort of saw your portfolio, and to say that I'm impressed would be an
Thank you.
understatement. But your work often draws from historical relics.
Mhm.
Can you share like your process for researching, for integrating those things into those elements into your design? What's like the mind process like?
So I've always been interested in history.
Yeah.
Coming back from school back in what 2010, long time ago now. But I always loved Horrible Histories, the was it CBBC show where they'd like go around teaching you like facts of history and stuff, and like I loved Romans, the Greeks. I remember my brother and I, we used to get cardboard and we'd make like the Roman gladiator shields and stuff, and we'd like play fight with them, and like we draw designs on it. So I've always been interested in history, and yeah, so usually. When I get the time, I like going to like museums. There's like amazing museums here in London, like the Wallace Collection, of course, the British Museum, but the Wallace Collection especially, because they have an amazing armory just filled with swords, spears from like Japan, Germany. They have whole suits of armor as well, and I just love like the um, like detail that they put in it. Like you think 500, 600 years ago, these guys were making this in metal with their own hands.
Yeah.
And I think, and like, meanwhile, I'm doing this in 3D, but back then they don't have like a Control Z, they don't have an undo button. Also, I can undo everything, but they make a mistake that's thousands of pounds worth of metal they've just wasted. But yeah, I just love, like, weapons and sort of history. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna ask you about your work, right?
Mhm.
The Heretic. I'm not even going to. I want you to talk me through it. It's really an amazing one, and I just want you to. How did you come about? Okay, so you already explained how much you love all of this historical things and all these
Mm.
historical relics, but how did you come about the Heretic?
So, the heretic sword, it's a real life sword. So there's a YouTube channel. Previously, it was Man at Arms. It's like this group of blacksmiths who made, like, weapons and swords from video games. And I really loved their channel because it was just, like, really cool to see the process of people taking like a lump of metal, turning it into a katana or a broadsword and stuff. And I think two of the Smiths from that show, they created a new channel called That Works. And one of them, Ilya Alexiev, an amazing blacksmith, he created this sword, the Heretic, which is what the my work is based after. And I,
Yeah.
yeah, and just watching the video was just, I mean, it's just a work of art. Like, not just the metal. I mean, the metalwork is amazing. The fact that he can do this again, like, without the use of a undo button, just with a hammer, chisel, and fire, is just inspirational. But it's also his design philosophy behind it. So the piece, if people haven't seen it, it's the Heretic. It's got, like, these sort of, like, stained glass portions on it, and both sides kind of tell the story of what a heretic is. So on one side you had uh, something that kind of, like, resembles Adam, and the snake that bites him, biblically. Or the other side, you
Yeah.
have the lady with the book, staring at the stars. So back then, um, he like, what, 1400s, 1500s, stuff like astronomy, astronomy no, astrology, not astronomy, astrology. So, being able
Yeah.
to seek divination from the stars, so that was seen as heresy as well. So it was really interesting, not just seeing, like, his physical skills of being able to make a masterpiece. It was to see his ideas behind how he creates, and, like, what his philosophy of what art is. I would highly recommend watching his. He has, like, a whole, like, half-hour video on the forging process, so I would highly recommend watching that. But yeah, just watching that video was just, like, it was really inspirational, and I really just wanted to pay homage to it and recreate it in 3D. And that was about a year's worth of work to do. But
Wow.
it was worth it in the end.
Wow. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of piece. I mean, this was in, like, my spare time, because at the time I was also working at Free Radical. Um, but yeah, it was just, like, taking my time, being able to, like, you know recreate this as close one to one as possible, and pay tribute to what is truly a beautiful piece of work by Ilya.
Absolutely. Yeah. You said how that you were working on this project for a year, and that's a really long time. How did you stay motivated? Because I know that yes, while you were very passionate about the subject,
Mm.
was that enough to get you to put in the work for over a year?
Uh, it, it was
My
difficult.
question would be, what was like the biggest motivation for you?
Oh, so, for context, I started that weapon at the end of uni in 20. I don't remember, it was 22? And then that was, yeah, about a year, like start, stop, start, stop, until I finally finished it and posted it. And yeah, this was like also in my spare time after work or weekends doing it. So it was definitely difficult sometimes to like kind of stay motivated. Because at the beginning it was like, cool, I'll work on this like a few months. I stop for a few months, work on it for a few months, stop, and then finally finish it in a few more months. But
Yeah,
I think my main motivation was I wanted to create, something that I love. So like I love weapons, I love swords. I think anyone who knows me, that's not a surprise considering how many photos of swords I have. um, and yeah, I think it was just being able to come back and watch his process, like seeing, how much love and effort he put into that sword. I it was just like, you know, I just need to do this. This is something I want to make. Just it was almost like an obsession at times because it was just like, I need to do this. I need to do this.
okay,
Um, and yeah, sometimes it was difficult to kind of do it because like I'm still relatively junior in terms of like my 3D art journey, compared to many other people. So at the time, it was also a way to improve my skills as well. Um, because back then I'd only had like half a year into the industry. And something in the industry is like that you need to do is like just show you're constantly improving, getting better, showing
yeah,
new skills. So I think that was the other sort of motivation, is to show, this is who I am as an artist in terms of like my artistic side and my skill side. Like I want to show this is who I am on a single piece of work.
yeah. I think that's very interesting. Wanting to show what it is that you're doing and wanting to show your work. I
Hmm.
think that's something I'm personally going to take out of this session. Um, so let's talk about your accolades, right? So in 2020, you were highlighted as in the IG 50
Yep.
as one of the you were would I say, what would we call it now? The IG 50 award, the one in 2020, right?
Yep.
For your potential in the gaming industry. How has this recognition influenced your career trajectory? And what did it do for you in terms of personal development?
So that so when I first applied for that, so it was kind of like a competition. You had to like submit your portfolio, your work, kind of describe why you wanted to be hired and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of did it on a whim because like I can't remember. I think I just saw the post. I was like, cool, that looks interesting. I'll spend like 5-10 minutes putting my details in, sending them this link. It's like I didn't really think any of it, and then I kind of got the email back. I was like, wait, this is real? I thought this was just some random form. But that was a huge thing for me, being able to see the other, because it was 50 people who got this award, and
Yeah.
we got to see like everyone else's work. We had like a chat, and being able to see everyone else's sort of work was like, wow, you can see who you're essentially competing against for the job that you want to get, and it was like really inspirational to see everyone's work, especially across different disciplines, because that award had artists like me. There was audio design. I think there were like some production sort of roles as well. And it was really interesting to connect with everyone. This kind of like hear their experiences. And yeah, that award was like helped me a lot because when I posted that award, it got the eye of a recruiter, and we got talking, kind of like talking about
Mhm.
like my portfolio, the awards, and all
Mhm.
that, and that put me through to my first company, Free Radical Design. So, if anything, my whim on that, I don't know, Thursday afternoon or something, kind of is the reason I'm here today. Just be signing up, winning it, and then yeah, eventually getting to where I am now.
Wow, that's very interesting. But I like what you said about how like it got the eye of a recruiter. Was
Hmm.
that how you landed your role at Airship?
Ish. So chronologically, so I had it was the IG50 award, and then that got the recruiter's eye. That then got me to Free Radical Design. Uh,
Okay.
so that was my first job as a 3D environment artist there. Free Radical unfortunately shut down uh, over a year ago now, which left me out the job. And then I saw Airship was opening for freelancers, and because I had some work on my portfolio, a year's worth of industry experience, and you know, sent in my application, got a few friends to like help refer me, and that kind of helped get me into the freelance role here.
Um, can you hear me, Alex?
Yes, hello.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I lost you for a bit there. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Which
Yeah,
bit did I
I
cut off?
wanted to.
Oh,
Hi, Alex. I'm sorry for that.
sorry, no, it's okay.
All right, all right. Okay, so I wanted to ask something else, and that's about the idea of documenting your journey, having a portfolio, and
Hmm.
how that lands you a job, right? I want you to speak to the importance of that, of finding a way to put your work out there so that people can see how I clearly I can see how that worked for you.
Hmm.
But for people who are, new to this, who don't know what to do, well, how would you advise them to put up together a portfolio and to show their work?
So, and of course, the big thing is the portfolio itself.
Yeah.
ArtStation is, probably the most used portfolio site for our line of work. So, definitely, first thing, make an ArtStation account for your
Okay.
like professional portfolio. But that's not the end all thing because, like you said, it's like posting to get the attention of people. So, LinkedIn's very important. That's like a professional place to showcase your work. Twitter's good as well. So I don't use it as much just because I'm not too good with like regular posting, but it's nice to like kind of show your work in progress. So like currently I'm working on a new scene that I've been posting like some work in progress shots of the environment, some post shots of the props that I'm making. So this is important as well because like it's not always about the final product. It's showing that you um, what's that? Like you can just improve, keep working on it. Oh, sorry, I think it went offline for a second. But yes, being able to show your progression, which is very important. Hello.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about my network. So sorry.
That's fine.
Can you hear me
Uh,
now, Alex?
yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Am I coming through okay? Hello?
Um, all right. So
Okay,
sorry for the breaking transmission.
that's fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
okay.
I can. So we're having that conversation about the portfolio.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you about your role at Airship.
So I think you cut out again.
Hi. So if you're here, I'm so sorry for the breaking transmission. Sorry. Give me a minute.
That's-
Okay. Alex, are we good now? Can you hear
Yeah,
me clearly
yeah,
now?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you
All
hear me?
right. Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you for being a good sport.
that's fine.
Uh, so yeah, I was gonna ask about what you can share with us, more of like your role, your data. So it would sort of be like what you do, it your day to day work role, what it entails for a 3D environment artist. What are your like your daily roles? Yeah.
So at Airship, so we're an outsourced studio. So we get work from companies that send us work, and we make it, send it back. So um, sort of like my day to day is like I'll get a task from the client. We kind of like look through it, uh, kind of like we do our research to find like more detailed references of what we want to make, and then we go through the sort of like whole pipeline. Um, we go from the uh, You've cut out again. Oh, hello.
Okay. Sorry, you can continue,
Okay,
Alex.
so
We're talking
uh,
about your work role.
yes. So yeah, we kind of go through the whole pipeline after we've received the brief from the client. So we do the high poly stage. We send that off for approval. Sometimes it comes back with feedback, which we do for the client. Gets sent back. If it gets approved, move on to the low poly stage. Make the low poly, send it off. Comes back. Do the texturing stage. Send it. Come back. So that's kind of what we do here at Airship as an outsourced studio.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying how we. So yeah, it's so at airships as an outsourced studio, it's like we get the work, send it for approval. If they have feedback, get sent back. We fix it and send back. But to kind of go more a bit back in time, because again, so Airship is an outsourced studio, which is different from like a in-house studio. So, back when I was working at Free Radical Design, we were like an in-house studio. We were working on our own project, our own game, which was the unreleased Time Splitters project. So the work is a bit different to the work I'm doing now. So back then in Free Radical, because we were working on our own project, we can kind of do what we kind of wanted. Um, so back there, I was more responsible for kind of making the environment. So I did like a few environments where I was responsible for doing like the what we call the white box. So that's kind of like the basic idea of how we want to do. So like when you were a kid, you had like maybe like building blocks and stuff.
Yeah.
You like put them around
Legos.
and like, cool, here's a tower there, here's like a building here. So that's kind of what like the white box is. We kind of lay out the sort of like foundations or the blueprint of our like area, and then so my job then was to kind of create the building blocks for it. It's kind of like Lego. We kind of make this wall here, this floor here, and we kind of like snap it into shape to create like a interesting space, and then we go on to like adding textures, cool props. So like one of the areas I did for the unreleased time splitters project was this turbine hall. So that was kind of like inspired by kind of like Soviet era Russia. So I did a lot of research into like brutalist architecture, um, and like similar games like Control, looking at the like architecture, the lighting, the materials, as well as like the sort of like posters. Like Soviet Russia had like a lot of like um, cool like sort of like propaganda posters that we wanted to like copy over, as well as like a lot of cool props from that era.
I'm so sorry, Alex. I'm so
No
sorry.
worries.
I'm so sorry. All right. So we're still. I stopped. I couldn't hear you after when we're talking about like the blocks, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about blocks.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
the white
Time
blocks. So
Splitters project, yeah, so the role of the environment artist there is actually making the block out with like the building blocks, and then kind of taking that inspiration. I mentioned the one of the pieces I made was this turbine hall, which was inspired kind of like Soviet era like power plants. So a lot of the time it was like a mix between research, blocking out, like just testing different things, because you don't always get things right the first time, which is very important. This iteration, being able to improve and keep trying new things. So over the course of like, I think that environment was like maybe 2 3 months. Like design changed, like the architecture changed, like the whole layout kind of just changed. I think maybe 2 3 times, because at the beginning it was kind of like a small little room, then it evolved into like a bigger room, and then an even bigger room. So it's being able to like accommodate those changes whilst still working from the original reference, which was a Soviet era power plant, and take inspiration from then and bring it to now. So it was really fun, just like doing the research of brutalist architecture and translating it into that 3D, as well as like doing research into like coal, like that sort of era props. Like there was a periscope I made, which was a really interesting find from the, I think it was like the Cold War. It's called like a donkey ear periscope, because it has like these, like the periscope you see in a submarine. It's got like the little thing, and you like look
yeah.
over the edge. So this one's called a donkey ear because it has two. It has so it has two eye holes, but it has like two tubes,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually
Mm-hmm.
change the tube's angle so you can look like, like sideways as well if you really wanted. Hence the name donkey is because it's like, a donkey's is flapping. So that's like another like thing that I love is like being able to take some time to research like these really cool, interesting historical artifacts and make them because some people, I think even back then my lead was like, what is this, because he's never seen it before. I was like, yeah, it's this donkey periscope, which again, like it kind of ties into my love of
Yeah.
history because there's so much wacky stuff that went on hundreds and even
Yeah.
thousands of years ago.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting. So I want to ask you about how the 3D environment has evolved since when you first started, and what trends do you foresee would shape its future? Like for newbies, for people coming in, what trends do you think we should pay attention to? We should learn, like things we need to pay attention to and learn. What do you think?
Um, so I mean, I've only been working 2 years, but I've been in like the loop of the sort of game industry for 5, 6 years throughout uni. So it's definitely been interesting to see the evolution of technology through those years. Like when I first started, we were on Unreal 4.2 or something, and now we have Unreal 5. I think I want to say 5.4 maybe. And like the difference between those two engines is huge. So Unreal 4, we had to do what's called baked lighting. So lights, so in like real life, if you shine a light, it immediately lights your sea, like your surroundings. But in Unreal 4, it didn't really do that. You had to do what was called baking, which is essentially tell the computer, "Cool, I've put a light here. Can you calculate how the light affects the environment?" So I think the final group project I did in uni, that project took like 6 hours to bake to register that the lighting was correct, and even then it was like sometimes there were errors. So it was like, cool, we just wasted 6 hours, do it again. But now in Unreal 5.4, well, even in Unreal 5, there was something called Lumen, which was just a huge game changer. It was lighting in real time. So now when you put a light in, it just immediately lit up the room, which, again, saves 6 hours. And that was like a tiny scene when you're thinking of, an entire game, an entire level. That back then it probably would have taken, I don't know, something crazy like 15, 20 hours, but now you could do it all in real time, as well as like nanite being a really cool technology, meaning you can load millions of polygons. Well, back in the day, like when you were playing like Doom or on your DS, everything was just like cubes pretty much, and now you have characters with like hundreds of thousands of polygons, which is more than an entire game back then. So yeah, the technology is always advancing. I think Unreal Engine 5 is definitely a big game changer for the game industry. I mean, the creative industry in whole, because now even like VFX and animation companies, they're using Unreal Engine 5 to render their scenes, or even Blender. I think there's that new movie Flow. Flow. It's got like a little cat in it. I still need to watch it, but I I believe that was all like made and rendered in Blender, which is a free software that anyone can get their hands on. And I think
Yeah.
that's another thing that is a big thing with everyone, with how readily available technology is now. Because like you see kids nowadays, they have like iPhone. I don't know what iPhone we're on, but whatever the latest iPhone is, what, 15, 16? But you see like kids now, yeah. So you see the kids now with the latest iPhones. But I got my first like laptop when I was 14 or something. But now kids these days, they have computers when they're like 6 or 7. So I think that like technology, like the like talent is going younger and younger by the year. More available technology, free softwares like Blender that anyone can pick up. Like that, there's no like boundary to it. Or like you now like YouTube, there's hundreds of great tutorials now that anyone can access, which is an amazing thing. So like now is like a really good time to get started and kind of like find what you like, what you enjoy.
There's also this amazing podcast that you can listen to and learn and know how to start your journey in the 3D environment art. So I'm going to bring you home a bit. That's for us in Africa. Um, for those of us, because it can be very hard, I'm sure you might have heard, or you might even know this, but it's quite hard for people from underrepresented
Hmm.
backgrounds to break into fields like this, right? So while you have given us free resources, and that's amazing, right, where we can go and learn all these things that we can pick up from YouTube and from Blender and all these amazing places, what specific advice would you give to people in underrepresented backgrounds, people in continents like ours? How would you advise them to navigate and succeed in this industry?
It's a bit of a tricky one, as I'm sure people in um, less economic areas, they won't have access to computers at all, or even a phone. Um, so it's a bit hard for them. I don't really have a recommendation for that because that's more of uh, that's more of an economic thing that I don't think I can really give good advice about.
True
Um,
that.
but in terms of like, people from um, other backgrounds, I think now with like social media now, you don't always have to show your face or like say your gender or anything, which is a really nice thing. Um, Now with the internet, you have a lot of uh, anonymity. You don't have to show who you are. So you could just like post art, just post what you make. Um, you know, Even if it's games isn't just digital art as well. You can show your own physical art or like just something you made, and just like show it off and kind of share your creativity and love for art with everyone.
That's very solid
Not sure.
advice.
I hope that kind of answered it because yes.
Yeah, that's a very, very solid advice. Yeah, show your work, put it out there. That's really solid advice. I'm gonna ask a few questions before we leave. And in the advent of AI, where we have a lot of our tasks being done by machines now, how do you stay or how do you balance being true to your artistic principles while adapting to the new technologies and softwares that we have in our work now?
That is a it's a difficult balance. So whilst I can recognize that AI it's improving significantly. Like I remember when I first started, or like near the end of uni, like text prompt generators, we were just like generating silly dogs in a sausage dog outfit, or ducks dancing and stuff. Or there's like that famous GIF of what's his name, Will Smith eating spaghetti back then, and it was just like his hands is like melting in the spaghetti. But now it's like
Mhm.
you're fully generating like
Yeah.
sometimes even like basic animations. So like whilst I can understand that AI is it's improving at a scary rate. Like sometimes when I'm searching for references, I have to just like look a bit closer. Like, is this AI or is this real? Because like sometimes it is getting difficult to
Yeah.
and like tell the difference now. I think it can be a useful tool sometimes. Like, say, when you want like a quick idea, like, cool, I want this cathedral in a dark city, and you send it to the AI, and it comes back with some cool like kind of ideas, like, okay, this looks cool. I like the idea of this, but I think at the end of the day, as good as AI is good at like imitating, artists, at the end of the day, it's still like an imitation, because I still think at the end of the day, art is something that is inherent to humans and their creative mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can be a good tool, when you want to like do something quick. You want a quick idea of something. You want a good brainstorm, like a mood board. But I think the human touch is what makes it, art. Like, I still go out to like bookstores and find like books. Like, I bought a book the other week, which I probably shouldn't have bought because I have too many. It's like what's it? It's like talking about wars in ancient China, and it's like that book is like, I could go to an AI and say, "Cool, can you show me a picture of the Great Wall of China or the Forbidden City?" And it'll spit something out, but it's not like something that is, you know, it might not be historically accurate, it might not be, correct, but when you look at the book, it's like, this is a clear cut picture of what you want, but it's not just a picture, because there's also the photographer behind it. Like, why has the photographer taken the picture of this wall? Like, is there something special about it? Is there like a cool like composition of it, like how they've shown it, or like why have they taken it from this angle rather than this angle? Which I think, as good as an AI is at imitating, that it doesn't have that connection, um,
Mm.
that a real artist can do. So it, it is good to delve into new technologies, because at the end of the day, it's new technology, it's good stuff to learn, there's new techniques, but I think still the human artist is king.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Um, so I'm gonna ask you one last question before I let you go, and I just want you to like reflect and from your journey so far, what aspects of your work brings you the most satisfaction, and what legacy do you think you're gonna leave in the realm of game art?
um so I think my sort of what like brings me satisfaction is this kind of it's being able to like look back on kind of like where you started with a project, or like even like at the beginning of my journey, like I said, when I first started learning Maya, all I made were like primitive cubes kind of bashed together, and now I'm looking at what I'm making now. It's like, I'm making like whole scenes and like buildings and everything. It's like, it's really nice to look back at the progress you made, um as well as just being able to show the work to others like in your community. So I'm involved in like a few Discord servers, um we just kind of like, with us like filled with hundreds, thousands of artists, and being able to show off your work to them, and they come back, it's like, wow, that's really cool. It's like, oh, this is awesome. You know, that sort of like, it's just like really cool to show off your work and like get a response, because I think that's, I mean, art in general, you want to show something you made, and have someone's like, yeah, that's cool. um as for legacy, I feel like I half have a legacy, because I feel like lots of people's like, oh, it's that sword guy, which is funny. But I I just want to essentially just make cool stuff for games that people enjoy. I eventually, when some of the projects I that hopefully will release, I want to see look at those game trailers or game reviews. It's like wow, and like see people saying, we really enjoyed this game, and like this looked cool, that scene looked cool, and all that sorts of stuff. Um, so yeah, I just hope that when projects release, you know people who play the games really enjoy them.
Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm really sure that from your work, I'm really, really sure that when those games come out, people will be amazed by them.
Thank
Thank you very much, Alex, for speaking to us. We really value
you
your
for having
work
me.
here at Reshape Mentorship. I've learned so much from you today, and there's so many other people who are going to learn, and that makes me so excited. Thank you for pouring into us. It was very good to talk to you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you, everyone. You can please do well to follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram and on YouTube and on LinkedIn to enjoy more of this kind of conversations. See you same time very soon. Bye.
Right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.